The editing process can be a daunting one, but today I want to share an approach that'll make it much easier. What's up, guys? My name's Brandon McNulty. I'm a writer, I'm the author of Bad Parts, and welcome to my writing channel. Today I want to talk about editing larger works like novels and screenplays. And whenever you're editing something that's larger in scope, typically you have to juggle a lot of different things, and that can get frustrating, can get overwhelming, and that can cause you to procrastinate and lose interest in your story. But one of the best things to do as a counterattack is to just simplify the editing process. And that's what I did while I was editing my upcoming novel. And instead of just, taking the whole beast of the novel head on, I simplified things by editing from the middle of my story. Now, in order for this method to work, you're going to need a couple things up front. First thing you're going to need, obviously, you're going to need a finished manuscript, something that you can actually edit. And once you have that finished manuscript, the second thing you're going to need is a list of the chapters or scenes in your story. And this is very important. Typically, when I finish a novel, I will actually take out a spreadsheet and I will list chapter by chapter what is going on in the story. So I might put chapter 1, then I'll put a brief description of what happens in chapter 1. Then I'll put chapter 2, put a brief description of that, and so on and so on. What this does for me, it enables me to get a visual representation of my story as a whole. I can just glance at the spreadsheet and get an idea of where the story is going, of where there might be pacing issues, of where the big moments happen, of where the subplots appear. And the key to this edit from the middle method is that you need to understand where your subplots appear. Typically, they will start in the second quarter of your story and they will just extend toward the end of your story. Now, once you notice them, you might have like a romantic subplot, you might have a mentor subplot, you might have a family subplot, you might have a number of different subplots in your story. But once you notice them on your spreadsheet, you want to highlight them in a specific color. Like pick one color for the romantic subplot, and if it appears in chapter 20, highlight that color, we'll say in red. And then if it appears again in chapter 21, highlight that in red again. And then if it doesn't appear again until chapter 30, don't highlight anything until chapter 30. And so on until you highlight every chapter where that subplot appears. Then go through your list again. Highlight your chapters in another color. We'll say blue for your mentor subplot. If chapter 24 is the first time the mentor subplot appears, highlight that in blue. Then highlight chapter 27 in blue if that's where it appears again, and chapter 32, and so on until you get to the end. And once you get all your subplots narrowed down, you find out where they are, where they appear, what's going on, what you do is you go through and you edit your story. But what you do is you only edit one subplot at a time. So you'll start maybe with that romantic subplot in chapter 20. You'll edit chapter 20, you'll edit chapter 21, then you'll jump to chapter 30. You will not worry about 23 through 29. Don't even think about those until later, because right now you want to focus on one particular subplot. What this is going to do, you are going to be laser focused as an editor. You are going to know exactly what happens in this subplot and what has to happen and what needs to change. Typically, when people edit a story, they start from the beginning and they work their way to the end, and they try to edit everything all at once. And this can get overwhelming and this can get frustrating, but if you focus on one subplot, you are just nailing down that subplot. You are making sure that that thing is set in stone, it is the way it needs to be. And then once you get to the end, once you get to wherever the subplot finishes up or it ties into the ending or whatever it is, then you move on to your other subplots. Move on to that mentor one, edit it, only the chapters where the mentor subplot appears, work your way to the end. Then move on to your next subplot, work your way to the end, and so on until the middle of your story is finished up. And once the middle of your story is finished up, move on to the end. Solidify your ending. Make sure that finale sequence is exactly where you want it to be. You want to set that thing in stone before you go back to the beginning, because if you know how your story ends and you know how the middle works, you can easily fix the beginning of your story, because the beginning is just where you plant the seeds that eventually grow into the rest of the story. This method made things a lot easier for me while I was editing my upcoming novel, and I'm sure it'll work for a lot of people. It may not work for every story or every writer, but give it a shot, especially if you're struggling with the editing process or if you don't know how to approach it. So I hope this helps. Question of the day: where do you typically start editing your larger works? Do you start at the beginning, at the end? Do you start with the chapters that need the most work? Let us know in the comments section below. Thank you guys for watching. If you want to support the channel, pick up a copy of Bad Parts if you haven't already. Also, be sure to check out my other videos, hit the like and subscribe buttons for me, share this video with a friend if you don't mind, and as always, remember to keep on writing.